loud.
Uh,
Good morning, everybody. This is Heather Morrison, and we are here with another episode of Bold Breakthroughs. I'm so excited to have my guest today, Victoria Sexton. So let me read a really quick bio for her, and then we will jump right in. Victoria Sexton helps successful women make their money effortlessly so that they can stop stressing and start making strides towards their goals. She provides her clients with straight-talking financial coaching, education, and strategies that give her clients the confidence to embrace their abundance and take control of their financial future. Victoria Sexton is a financial coach, believer in abundance. I love that. Gratitude and investing in yourself. Oh, those three words, that tagline is so awesome. Investing in yourself. Good morning, Victoria. Is there anything else you want to add to that fabulous bio?
good morning. I think that pretty much describes me to a T, except I am a total nerd. So I do get really like nerdy with people in regards to their finances. But I feel like that's kind of what you want from someone that's going to help you with your money, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that right there, that laugh that you just gave, that's one of the things I love about you. When I was talking to you, and we also did a book club together not too recently, or fairly recently, and your laugh is just, it puts people at ease so quickly with you. And that's what you want when you're talking finances, because those can be some sensitive things. And yeah, you need someone that's not a typical finance person that's very, low energy. And, so I love, you're doing such important work in the world. So let's talk about the work that you're doing. So what to kind of take us on a journey of how you ended up where you are now.
Yeah. So we'll go like way back, but this is relevant. So I first started trading in the stock market when I was a teenager. My dad, his love language is business. And ironically, he was a financial consultant when I was a kid. And so I think he just didn't know how to have a girl, right? So, because I'm the only girl in the family. And so he taught me about business and money and investing. And I was like 18 years old and saved up a bunch of money and opened up a Roth IRA. And I didn't know that this wasn't like a normal teenage girl thing to do. So I went from there and I spent a lot of time in the corporate world. And then I was a financial advisor for a while. And, last year was so good for us in so many ways. Also, a lot. I feel like 10 years worth of transformation in 1 year, right? And I just said to myself, I need to be helping women in a different way with their money. They don't need to be sold a mutual fund. They need help. They need support. They need resources, because with how many people are passing, with as many ladies who I know who are getting a divorce, who are going through big transitions, they need support. And I want to be that person to offer it to them. So that's kind of how it all came about. And yeah, it's just I believe that life is a journey, and I felt like my part of the journey to springboard and do something else in a different way just kind of snuck up on me.
I love it. I love that story. And I think you shared that you were reading like the Wall Street Journal at a really young age.
I was, yeah. Well, yeah, because with my dad, really, I needed to meet him where he was, and he wasn't gonna for some people, they're like, oh, my dad, used to do my hair in a ponytail before soccer meets or whatever. And I'm like, my dad, no way. But we would read the Wall Street Journal together, and he would say, what stocks would you buy this week? Or what's happening with this company this week? And so I found that financial education was so important to me, just to be able to have some confidence in what I'm doing, which I find is so many ladies are so smart. You know what you're doing with your money. They just don't feel like they are confident in what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, and I would argue that your dad teaching you finances probably served you a little better in life than him teaching you how to put a ponytail in before soccer class. Not that that's not important. That's an important
Yes.
time, but still, right? And you and I talked about this a little bit before this meeting, that I remember Mattel had a Barbie doll. It was Team Malibu or one of those, and they had to pull her off the market because one of her sayings was math is hard or math class is tough or so, and it just, that's just so ludicrous. But I think that's what the messaging that we get, especially as women growing up, is that math is for men, math is for engineers, math is tough. So what kinds of challenges did you come up against along the way to where you are now, especially being as a woman in finance?
Well, I'll be honest with you, I've had my own journey with money.
Mm.
And like people, and I was just reading an article about this morning. People seem to think that if you're in financial services, that like you have your life all figured out. Well, here's the big secret. Half the people in financial services aren't very good at budgeting and they're in debt, right? So I've had my own journey where I've had to figure out, why do I do the wacky things with money that I do? And is that serving me? And if it's not serving me, then how do I let that habit go? So I want to say the past probably more than 10 years, I remember looking at my husband and I was like, I'm stuck with my money. I need to figure this out. And that's been a journey in itself. So I think that with our society where everyone looks really cute on Instagram and they have their new car and everything, we have this perception that other people are doing better than us. And I think, especially right now, a lot of people are struggling and they're silent about it and they're putting on a brave face. So, but it's when we really can be real about, hey, my hours were cut to 50% and things are rough right now. And so maybe I can't do a girls' night out. When we're really real with people, I feel like that's when we can have a little bit of freedom in regards to what we're going through with our money. And that's when we learn from other people. And that's when we get support from our community.
Yeah, well, and I'm so glad you brought that up because there's this, like you said, this misperception, and I think we're doing a disservice to people when we don't show them the authenticity of our life, because not only are we trying to create this facade that doesn't exist, but then we're also allowing other people to think that there's this facade that doesn't exist, right?
Right.
There's this great vitamin commercial that has this woman and she's got her phone up to her face, and like from here she looks amazing, right? And she's rocking it and she's doing her little video conference and blah blah blah, and her hair is perfect and her jewelry is perfect, and then around her, like she's got a kid literally attached to her leg, like the dog is running around, the kitchen is a complete and total mess. And that's what real life looks like. There was also this great commercial years ago, and it was this guy and he was like leave it to beaver kind of dad. I'm aging myself, but very put together dad, and he was out mowing the lawn on his riding lawnmower in front of this huge palatial house, and he was in his socks and he was very well put together for a guy on a lawnmower, and he's riding the lawnmower and he's like, I'm up to my eyeballs in debt. And nobody sees that, right? Nobody sees that. So
Right.
I really appreciate your authenticity and your honesty in that, because I think that will allow people, especially with finances and talking about that, to open those up. Like, wait a minute, you don't have this figured out 150%. Ah, phew, then I feel okay bearing my financial soul to you, right?
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's so wild these days because I feel like um I really like, my new goal with social media is just to try to let my own like nerdy freak flag fly. And so on like Instagram, I've been posting from the carpool lane recently, and I'm like, this is when I have 5 minutes to talk to you. Right. So um yeah, that's my personal goals. I feel like we have had enough of the fakey fake, really pretty pictures. Because you're right, that's not what real life looks like.
Yeah, it's not. And like this morning I did an interview and I had a dog and a kid behind me. And it like before it would be like, no, stay out. And it's like, you know what? Especially now, because we can only keep that up for so long. Now that everybody's working from home, we've all seen the warts, everything going on in the background. That's
Yes.
life. That's just life. So I really appreciate that. What's your passion project right now? Like what's got you like really worked up and knee deep and stuff that's really juicy going on for you?
So I'm going to be launching a course coming up called Effortless Money Mindset. And I'm all about like, and the word effortless keeps coming back to me. And it's like effortless meaning it's easy for you to do, not meaning you could sit on the couch and like a bag of money is going to fall in your lap, but right, it's like, okay, we're going to set things up so that it works with you and what is going on in your life and make it as streamlined as possible. And then also connecting the mindset and the woo and the abundance and all of that. So that course is coming up, my Effortless Money Mindset course that I'm super excited about.
When is that launch?
That is going to launch in May.
Aha, so really coming up.
Yes.
And I love the word effortless around that because you're not saying like work free, no work involved, but you're saying that money can be easy. It doesn't have to be,
Right.
it doesn't have to be hard, right? Money can be easy.
Right. I mean, it takes a little bit of, I mean, I say effortless like tongue in cheek almost, because it does take a little bit of effort to set yourself up for success. But then once you have a system in place, it's like you don't need to stress every day. You know, we can save that brain space for something else that's maybe more important for the day.
Exactly. And I love that you use the word system because I am all about the systems and structure, which sounds to some people sounds rigid, but I think that once you get that system set up, then you can get it on rinse and repeat, right? If it's set on autopilot,
Totally.
and you don't have to worry about scrambling around, on the 1st and the 15th every month when you get paid, like, where am I going to put this money? Where if you just do a little bit of planning and a little bit of setting up that structure in the beginning, then the rest of it just kind of flows on autopilot.
I recently shared with my Facebook community what my system is, which is like you would just not believe how easy it is. It's like one spreadsheet and I have all my bills on there for the month. And then I have to put a check mark when I paid it because otherwise I think that I paid it, but then I haven't really paid it. And then I have to be like, but didn't I pay that? Like this is how my brain works, right? So it doesn't have to be something that's super hard, but it does have to work for you. So it's why I hate when people tell me, they're like, oh, well, I think the QuickBooks is my answer. I'm like, I don't think QuickBooks is your answer. I think that everybody's different. Everyone's brain is different. Just have to find the simplest thing that works for you.
Exactly. Yeah. Because I think that we think, well, if QuickBooks doesn't work for me, then I'm broken. There must be something wrong with me. Right. And that's not the case.
Right. Yeah. And I swear I like am shameless in how much I bash on QuickBooks because I have used it and not loved it for a really long time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I use an Excel spreadsheet that has my stuff on it. And then I go into my calendar. I set it up for like a year because you can rinse and repeat on your calendar, right? Just when my bill is due. And then I go in there and click just like you do, paid, and then the amount. And that's it. And that's all I do, right? But it keeps me on track and it keeps my mind, it allows
Right.
my mind to be freed up for other things.
Yes. I think that's really a big thing is that like your purpose in life is probably not to make sure that your bills are paid on time. So once you have that on lockdown, like then you can really do all the things that light you up.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So you talked a little bit about mindset. What are some of like the mindset pieces around money that you tackle in your program?
There's a lot. I have two things that I'll share with you today that I think are really big. The first thing is your money stories, and the second thing is what I call one-liners. So one-liners are things that you say throughout the day that you may not realize that you say about your money. And so I'll just tell you what, like I share how I share this in my program. Um, so throughout a week, like take a notebook and every time you say something about money, write it down. And this sounds like a little bit of a pain, but then you are seeing every time you make a comment about your money. So the comments about your money are you reinforcing a story that was implanted into your brain a long time ago. And it may be from, something that you picked up during your childhood. Heck, I don't know. I'm not a therapist, but I know that these things end up sticking with us. And I think it's important to identify what we tell ourselves. So I'll give you an example of this. I was at a networking thing, and this lady, I never met her before, and we were chit-chatting, and all of a sudden, like, she stops eating her chicken salad or whatever we were having, and she turns to me and she said, "Nobody ever taught me how to save money."
Mm.
And she's like 65, 70-ish. And she started telling me how she was struggling. That was her money story. Nobody ever taught me how to save. And so I think it's really important the things that we tell ourselves, because she could have empowered herself to learn that at any time in her life, but instead she was reinforcing this story. So I want people to be cognizant of the things that you tell yourself and what you're reinforcing, because we are also amazing in our own way. And so I found that, but we're our worst critic. We're the harshest person to ourselves. So if we can identify those things and start changing that, then I believe that there's a change. Like, you can change the story of your money, but you have to identify it first, because sometimes we don't even know that that's what we've been saying to ourselves.
Yeah. Well, I love that. And it's super important. I love that you have people write that down, because I think that that makes, sometimes when we say things out loud or write it down on a piece of paper and read it back to ourselves, we realize how silly that sometimes sounds, right? Like, no one ever told me where the shoe department was at Target, so I never bought a pair. You found the shoe department at Target, right? You knew where to find that place, right? If you really wanted to. So it's funny to hear someone say, well, you couldn't pick up a book, you couldn't ask, but
Right.
we get stuck in our story. We get stuck in thinking that we don't have any other choice but the story that we're given in life. So I love that you have
Mm-hmm.
that for people, because if we walk around and we say, I'm sick and I'm tired all the time, then guess what? You're going to be sick and tired all the time, because you keep telling yourself that.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, I love that you talk about the mindset piece, because I think that's like the place to start. I don't know how you run your program, but I think that that's like a huge component that no one talks about.
Yeah.
We think, I'm not smart, or I'm not, whatever it is. So I'm really glad to hear that you unpack that in your program. So awesome. What do you think has been a habit that's been instrumental to your success that you do?
Um, I I have to say, my mind is like equivalent to the junk drawer. Okay, like everything, like I'm thinking about a gazillion different things all at the same time. I'm one of those people that I'm driving and I'm like, oh, we should really do that. And then the thought will leave me. I found that, like, I had my husband install, and this sounds super, like, incredibly simplistic, but it works for me. I had my husband install this ginormous 5-foot whiteboard in my kitchen, and everything goes on the whiteboard. And so sometimes when I'll have a thought, just even drawing it out, even like being like, okay, well, how would I teach this concept, or do we need to have a handout with that? Like, what would that look like? And for me, that, like, I feel like I don't have to keep track of things every day because it's on the whiteboard. So it's already there.
Exactly. I always feel like there was a meme that came out that said, my mind is like an internet browser. I've got 15 windows open and I have no idea where that music is coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's me too.
Yeah, and people don't realize the value of doing a dump list, of getting that stuff out of your head, because your mind is only capable of holding on to so many thoughts. And when you try to hold on to everything, you hold on to nothing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that.
And I found, like, paper is my nemesis. Like, if I make a list, I'll make like 20 lists in a day, right? And I can just, like, and then I have like 10 piles of paper. So yeah, the whiteboard really works for me because it's like that way I'm not like, where did I put that one paper that I wrote that one thing on?
I love that. I love that you're embracing that. That's just what you do. And you realize your zone of genius there. That's awesome. So what's up? I think a lot of people get asked the question of, what would you have done differently? But I always like to ask the question I also like to add the additional option of answering the question, what is something you're really glad that you did?
With my business or life in general or
Sure, either or,
anything.
anything.
Um, I one of the best things I've ever done for myself, and this actually now that I think about this is both business and personal, is I came to the realization a while ago, probably like a decade ago, maybe longer, um, that if I don't follow my gut, that I am not using my own superpower, right? That when your gut's talking to you about something, and this includes your money,
Mhm.
because a lot of times, like when I was a financial advisor, women would come into me and they'd be like, I didn't think this was right for me, but I had this advisor who was this guy in this fancy suit, and he said this was a really good investment. And I'm like, that was your gut talking to you saying that that wasn't for you. But I think if we can tune into that, that is like, I feel like that saved me so many times from, things that seem really good on paper, but aren't really good for me. So I think that if you can tap into that and really tune into what your gut's telling you, it's a benefit for both like business and personal.
Yeah. And to honor the fact that, not just kind of poo poo it or sideline it because some guy in a fancy suit said, no, no, I got this all taken care of, right? You know your mind, you know your body, you know your situation. And I think that, and my mom always said that, like, your first instinct is usually the right one.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. So, what have you been feeding your brain lately? I love to hear what people are reading or listening to or doing, even if it's just like hanging out in your garden. How have you been feeding your brain during this whole time?
Um, I'm a big reader, so I read a lot. And I've been reading a lot of like super fascinating like money books. Like, I have like the Wealthy Girls Book Club where we read books about money every month. Um, but I also think it's really important to read other stories about other businesswomen and how they're doing it and how they've done it. And because sometimes I feel like, especially as an entrepreneur, that you're kind of just like sitting in this room by yourself. And like, I have no idea what I'm doing. It's like, so it's really important to just remind yourself that, hey, like Sarah Blakely from this, it's like she was just gonna wear white pants, right? To hear her story. Like she didn't know what she was doing when she started out or that she would have this huge jump. So I think as a woman in business, feed that little part of your soul that needs some inspiration.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we need to replace the support system because for most of us that I've talked to anyways, before we had an entrepreneurial journey, we had a corporate journey or at least an office environment journey where there was an HR department and a tech department and a, marketing department and somebody else to answer the phones and now as an entrepreneur, that's you. Right? So when all of that system goes away,
Right.
you do
Yeah.
need a little support and it's really helpful to hear other women that have gone through what you're going through and to say it's okay, like it's okay that you're going through this issue or going through that issue and you're not alone. So I think that's really important.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I've had my own I've come to my own conclusion like in the past, I don't know, 6 months or so, where I realized that like my mind, my soul, like they need to be fed good food, Like so the relationships I have with people, the things I'm consuming, they need to be inspiring and positive. And so that includes like some people that I know who've been in my life who are just like really down on everything. It's like, well, maybe we spend a little less time together because I need to make sure that I am doing the things for me that I need.
Yeah, I did a whole video series on that called Pruning the Dead Wood. Because it's if you're a gardener,
I love
yeah,
it.
in order for like a rose bush to survive, you have to go through and prune out the dead wood that's sucking the energy from the bush, right? And we have to do that with our lives sometimes. It's funny because I was listening to a podcast yesterday and they were talking about how much, they have this negative influence around them. And I thought, I don't have one person in my life that's critical of me, and that's by design. That's because I'm very choosy with
Mm.
who and what I feed my life and feed my brain and my heart. And that the beauty of that is that's your choice. You get to choose who you have in your life, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And and sometimes I feel like it's almost brutal when when at least that's how I feel when I'm like, I love that person, but not right now. I'm going to send you some love, but I'm going to spend more time with even with myself, and giving love to myself rather than being around people who are negative and like meh, all the
Yeah,
time about
exactly.
whatever. Yeah.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
love that pruning the dead wood. I love that so much.
Yeah. Gotta go. They've got to go. So I know that you had mentioned you've got a women's book club that I had the honor of being in, and it was so much fun. And then you do that on a monthly basis. And then you've also got your launch coming up. And so how can people find you? How can they work with you? Do you have anything you'd like to share with the audience? What's going on? How can people see you?
Yeah, you can find me at victoriasexton.com. But I'd also love to invite everybody if they're looking for some financial inspiration, if they're looking for someone who's just gonna like tell it to you straight, and so you can get moving on your financial goals. Anyone is welcome to join my Facebook group, the Wealthy Girls Club. And it's just Wealthy Girls Club if you search on Facebook. And like we have book club every month. And I also do tutorials and trainings. So I do get nerdy. Like I had a whole class on like what are ETFs and what are mutual funds and how do we buy stocks and yada yada. Because I think that's important too, is to have access to the meaty like financial education stuff as well. So yeah, so I would invite everybody to join the group if they're looking for some support in that area.
Awesome. Awesome. And then the thing, like I said at the beginning, the thing I love about you is that you're laughing, that you're funny, and that you bring like joy to finances, right? It's not so serious and it's not so fatal. So I love that you have that, excuse me, that you have that group to call women in, and also not just talk about like high level, we're going to tell you how to save for a pair of shoes, but you get into that meaty stuff that women need to hear, but you make it approachable and you make it light. So I love that. So thank you so much for being here with me today. I so appreciate it. I will put all of the information down below this video so people can find you on all of your outlets. And is there anything else you'd like to leave people with today, a thought or anything?
I think the thing I'd like to leave people with is that if you have any thoughts about your money this month, this week, today, whatever, I want you to think about this. Whatever you're going through, you and I had my own save myself moment in my life. But I think that everyone who is going through a rough time, like that can change. It doesn't have to be permanent, it doesn't have to be forever. And you have it within you to change that.
I love that. I'm going to ask you to repeat that little snippet one more time because you said, I'm going to leave people with this, whatever you've got. And then it froze for just a second. So there's just that,
Oh,
whatever you, I know, genius, right? It's a cliffhanger. What? I needed to hear that. So just repeat that little sentence, that little phrase again, whatever you've got.
whatever you have holding you back from your financial situation. So, like, there's usually for people a space between where they are and where they want to be. And whatever is holding you back, whatever that gap is, you can bridge that gap. It's within you. It is 100% within you. And I've said to my community, like, it's time to save yourself from, judgment, from shame, from all of that stuff. And let's just really get to it. Like, what do you need financially? How are we going to get there? And so saving yourself is within you,
Yeah, I love that.
but you have to do so.
Yeah, it's like Glenda the Good Witch who said, you had the power within you all along, Dorothy.
Yes, yes, absolutely, 1,000%, right? So, and I've had my own save yourself moment that I should share on like my group at some point in time. I've had my own moment where to decide to save myself, but everyone has to make that decision. And once you make that decision, I feel like it gets easier, because then that's when you find the resources that you need you get connected with people who are going to help you. But it starts with the decision.
Yeah, and you also realize that you're capable of doing it. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I know we had some tech issues, so I apologize. I know there was a little bit of a delay back and forth, so I apologize. And I really want to thank Victoria for hanging in there with me through tech challenges. So you gotta love Zoom. Anyways, I will put all that information.
I know, right?
I will put all that information down below, and I so encourage people to reach out to Victoria. You are such a joy and such a bright light, and you are doing such important work for women right now. So I really appreciate you being here with us today. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. I loved being here with you. Thank you.
Absolutely. And tune in next Tuesday at high noon, and we'll have another installment of Bold Breakthroughs. Bye, guys.